Good afternoon and welcome, Rotarians, guests, and friends, and welcome to those of you who are on Zoom as well. We are excited about this August 12th meeting of the Rotary Club of Cincinnati. We are glad you are with us here in person and again to those of you who are online. We will begin with the playing of the national anthem, and that will be followed by the invocation and four-way test by Nancy Reese.
Please join me in prayer. Thank you, God, for the blessings and bounty of summer, for the fun we have with our family and friends, the fellowship at our Rotary events and meetings, the produce of the fields, and the extra daylight we have to be together and to serve. Thank you for the many people who work in the financial world, those who preserve, protect, and grow our finances, and so that we can share with others and enjoy the fruits of our labors. Guide us in our decisions, how to use our money and all the bounty that we have from you, and so that we well live our Rotary motto of service above self. Bless all of us gathered here today in person and on Zoom. Please bless our speaker, Barbara Turner, who is here to share her wisdom with us. And bless those who have prepared our food and are here serving us. Amen. Now please join us in all the things that we think, say, and do as Rotarians. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy, for the invocation and leading of the four-way test. Next, we will be featured with a video from Mount St. Joseph University, who is our meeting sponsor for today. After that video, we will be introduced to two new members. The introductions will be made by Rotarians Rick Finley and Jack Scott.
The heart of a lion means following your passion with an intensity unmatched by others. You're not measured by the number of times you get knocked down. Success is measured by the number of times you get back up.
Next, we will welcome the new members, the introduction, Rick Finley and Jack Scott.
Thank you, President Melinda. It's my pleasure to introduce Mark Tazzoni. Mark grew up in a house and household in Virginia that was filled with Rotary love and devotion. I think your father was a longtime Rotarian, wasn't he? After high school, Mark attended Hampton-Sydney College in Virginia, where he earned a BA in Latin and Greek. He then went on to attend Florida State University, where he earned a BA in Latin. Then he taught Latin for 6 years in public schools in Virginia before deciding to move to Cincinnati to attend UC's famous law school, right? He now resides in the west side of Cincinnati with his wife, Sarah, who is an elementary school teacher in the Oak Hills School District. His son, Roman, who will be turning 3 on Sunday, and their dog, bow. He currently is working for the Thomas Law Offices, which serve Ohio, Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, and Missouri. His legal practice consists of plaintiff's personal injury law. He predominantly represents elderly plaintiffs who have been the victims of nursing home neglect and abuse. But his practice also includes medical malpractice into accidents and civil rights litigation. So please join me in welcoming Mark as a new member of Rotary.
Today it's my pleasure to present our new fellow Rotarian, Peter Lytle. Peter is a materials engineer with Terracon and becomes one of our corporate members. Peter was born in California, but quickly showed his affinity for materials engineering when he realized all things that are cracked eventually fail. So they packed up their bags and moved to Ohio, Mainville that is. He's a graduate of St. X and received a degree in civil engineering from the University of Cincinnati. Peter leads our office's structural diagnostics program. He is active in the American Concrete Institute. Peter's also active in the Special Olympics and has participated the past 3 years in the Polar Plunge, where his team has won the Best Themed Costume Award and raised a ton of money, the most important thing. Peter is also an experienced knitter. You heard me, knitter. I didn't know that. But in any case, he became a knitter when his mother and sister convinced him to knit hats for students at the school where his sister was teaching when she noticed that many of the children did not have hats. While in Germany, Peter also had the opportunity to live with a 75-year-old lady who taught him the European way of knitting, which cut the time in half. He brought that back and actually trained his mother in European knitting. But don't let that fool you. Peter's an avid runner and a cyclist, and right now is training to participate in the Ironman competition in September. Plus, if that does not scare you, he's a pretty good shot and enjoys upland bird hunting. His Rotary mentor is Pete Armstrong, so as they say, birds of a feather. Peter lives in East Walnut Hills. Some of you who attended the Believe to Achieve met his lovely girlfriend, Rachel, the other evening. Please take a moment to introduce yourself to Peter. I guarantee you will not regret reaching out to him. Thank you.
Thank you very much and welcome, new Rotarians. Next, we will have a special welcome to our guests, introduction by Bob McElroy of our visitors and guests, and a special welcome to our newly pinned Rotarians. Bob?
Thank you, Melinda. Hello, friends. We have 6 prospective members today. The first one is a guest of Tony O'Cherry, or Archery, she told me is the right pronunciation of her name. The first time I knew that. Reverend Daniel Buford, from retired human rights activist. Our second prospective member is Eric Fogg with Colwell Banker, and he's a prospective member guest of Nancy Reese. Then we have Bradley Harris, who is with the Salvation Army, and he's sponsored by Deanne Fleming. And then we have Adil Fardaheb, who is new to Cincinnati, lives in Milford, and he is newly enrolled in the UC Engineering School, and then he will be employed here locally. And he's a prospective member of Dr. Hux Miller. Then we have Edward Awusu Korkor, and he is with Around Town Realty, and he's sponsored by Balfour and Tony Archery. And then lastly, number 6, we have Miles Vetter, who is with 5X Media, and he's also sponsored by Tony. Tony's real busy today. She's got 3 prospective members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bob, and thank you for members who are bringing in and welcoming new guests to our meeting. Next, we will have Owen Rassman, who is going to give a special announcement about our Rotary picnic. Owen?
Thank you, President Melinda. I'm a little disappointed the last few weeks. I had a lot of people come up to me and ask, "Oh, and when's the picnic?" And I think President Melinda has announced in the last month or so that the picnic is August the 28th, end of this month, on a Saturday at Camp Allen. And the important thing about the picnic, it's been our annual thing we've been doing for years. It's great for new members to get out there and see what we're all about. I mean, that's Camp Allen. We're going to be right in the camp. Camp has stopped for the summer, I think this week or last week. It'll be empty, but you'll be able to get a good perspective, take tours. There's actually a set of mules pulling a cart that will take you around, take you to your car, take you to the new side of the camp. I don't think anyone in here, maybe but a few, has seen the new side of the camp. I have seen it. It's spectacular. Anyway, as far as the Rotary picnic the picnic itself is concerned, I do want to thank Angie Ferguson, who's here today. She's been our lead person. She's been very good. Give her a round of applause. And also Chris Adams of Stepping Stones, and the lovely Christy is handing out the forms for the picnic. I'll just take a quick 30 seconds and tell you some of the highlights. It basically is going to start around 3 o'clock and it'll go to about 8:30, so we'll get you home. And Linda's signaling. I'm getting to that. Do you want to come up here? Oh, I'm sorry. She could fire me. I realize that. So I'm sorry. So let me tell you the first part. It starts down. She's got me. 3 o'clock is check-in. 3 o'clock is also the car show, where it's really just a show. There's no competition. You just drive in. There's going to be cars that are part of the road rally in the morning that starts at, now she's got me, 12 o'clock. And you can also participate in that. We'll give you more information about that in the upcoming weeks. There's a crew of folks with antique cars that are going to do that. They're also going to participate in the picnic. But we encourage all the Rotarians to dust that old car off that's in the garage, bring it out, let us see it. Everybody's always interested in something from the last century. Also, the other thing that's different, I know some of you people have been here every year. We've really upgraded the ice cream truck. We've got a very west side ice cream truck that covers everything you can think of in ice cream. Thank you, Bob. And also very important is the cornhole competition, which is from 4 o'clock to 6 p.m. You have to be on time. There's only 24 participants, so you have to sign up early. I'm a previous winner, so I'm going to be out there, so beware. So August 28th, Saturday, the early part of it starts at 12 o'clock if you want to be part of that, or at 3 o'clock is the main check-in, and we'll give you more information as the weeks come, and thanks for your attention. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Owen, for giving us those announcements regarding the picnic that's coming up on August 28th. Information about the picnic will also be listed in the E-Raise, so please check the E-Raise this week for some specifics. Some additional announcements. We have several members celebrating a birthday this week. On August 10th was David Edwards and Don Nyer. August 12th, today, Dr. Beverly McCarthy. And August 15th, Steve Brash. Let's give them a round of applause for their birthdays. Next, we will have Split the Pot. As always, 25% of the pot goes to the winner, and 25% goes to the accumulating pot. And the winner gets $35 today, and if they win the accumulating pot, it's now at $410. So let's hope we can choose the winner for the accumulating pot today. All guests can participate in Split the Pot. However, only Club 17 members are eligible to draw for the accumulating pot. So we're going to draw for the Queen of Hearts. Let's see if we can give away the pot this week. And we'll have our guest speaker, Barbara Turner, to pull the ticket for the winner, please. The last 4 digits of the winning ticket, the digits are 9260. 9260. Is that John Davis? No. Mary Dornetti. Let's see if Mary gets the Queen of Hearts. 6 of Clubs. Well, next time. Thanks so much, and congratulations, Mary. Next, we will have just a brief announcement on our upcoming hands-on service project. Last night, we had a great evening at the Ronald McDonald House. We had several of our members there. That project was, the leadership of that project was taken on by Dr. Hux Miller, and we were there from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock. It was such a great evening of us being able to spend some time with the families and to prepare a meal for them. Our next project will be this Saturday, August 14th at Gamble Montessori Elementary. We started the first project with that school under the CPS projects in July. We will be able to meet and fellowship with the families as we do some more activities outside, making their campus more feasible to learning and education expansion for children in the outdoors. So we will be there in the morning from 9 to 11:30, and they will favor us and the families with a picnic after our work. If you're interested, please see Jody DeVoyd, or you can see Dr. Hux Miller, who's here today as well. Get your gloves and everything ready to come out. We've been doing a great job on our service projects. We've done 6 since July. Let's give yourselves a round of applause for the service projects you've done. Next week's meeting, we will have sheriff's recognition. So please make sure you RSVP in time to have lunch for our next week's meeting. And now we will focus on today's meeting. The introduction of today's program will be done by Al Conscious. Al will come forward, and then our presenter will come up next. Thank you.
Thank you, President Melinda. Before I introduce our prestigious speaker, I have a public announcement, public service announcement. If you receive an email that has pork, ham, salt, preservatives in the title, don't open it. It's spam. I know. Okay, we're very pleased to have Barbara Turner here today. She is the CEO of Ohio Financial. She has over 35 years of leadership experience in the financial services industry. She began her career in banking, became operations, trading, and systems manager for the Reynolds DeWitt Securities firm, joined Ohio National in 1997, and steadily rose to a broad range of executive positions, and in November 2018 became Ohio National's 11th president and chief operating officer. She is the first woman and the first person of color to serve in this role. She was elected to the board in December 2019 and became president and CEO January 1st of this year. Barbara has served in a variety of roles at Ohio National, including vice chairman and chief administrative officer. Prior to that, she was president and CEO of 2 Ohio National subsidiaries. She is a Cincinnati native, attended UC, is a graduate of the Wharton Securities Industry Institute. She was the first female in the U.S. to complete the FINRA Wharton Certified Regulatory Compliance Professional Program. Her designation is CRCP. Ms. Turner and her husband have 3 adult children and 4 grandchildren. She enjoys traveling, cooking, reading, and attending arts events. She also mentors at-risk teenage girls and single mothers. Please welcome CEO Barbara Turner.
Good afternoon, everyone. And so I titled my presentation, Finding My New Norm and Leading During a Time of Change and Transition. And before I start, I'll have to say something about me as an individual, because quite often we get, I guess, attached to titles. But for me personally, if I describe myself, I would say I'm a Christian, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, grandmother, a daughter, a sister, an aunt, a friend, a sister friend, a community leader, and an advocate for those who are underserved, who just happens to also be CEO of Ohio National Financial Services. And I feel that's very important because I try to bring my whole self to every situation. I can't separate Barbara the Christian from Barbara the mother or CEO or what have you. And so I always like to remind people who tend to focus on our titles that there's more to a person than what they do as a vocation. The last 2.5 years have been quite interesting for me. In January 2018, Ohio National created what was called the Office of the Chair. And no, actually it was the Office of the CEO. And at that point in time, I was promoted to vice chair along with 2 of my colleagues. And the purpose behind the Office of the CEO was to determine who our next CEO would be. And I quickly determined that I wasn't interested. If you step back and you look at what the past prior 5 years have been like for me, I had 5 different positions, held 5 different positions in 5 years. And the first thing I thought is, no, I want to finish this. I don't want to transition to something else. I had just been named Chief Administrative Officer. But the other thing, which was far more important to me, is I didn't like this idea of competing against 2 of my colleagues for a position. I felt nothing good could come from having people who care about one another and respect one another and who have worked together collaboratively for years vie for a position. Even though I had great respect for these individuals and still do, I just didn't want to have anything to do with this competition. So I made that known. I will be a happy number 2 or number 3. I will support these 2 guys and, may the best man win. And I got a lot of flack about that. I got flack from women about, how can you have such an opportunity and say, I'm not interested. I got questioned about whether or not I felt I was qualified and if it was fear that caused me to say I didn't want to compete. And the reality was I didn't feel it, and sometimes you have to follow your gut and stand up for what you believe in and not really pay attention to the optics of what are the perceptions that go with the decision that you've made. And so I went along my merry way. I was still a member of the Office of the CEO, but it was known that the competition was between the two other individuals, and Barbara would be a happy number 2 or number 3, but she wasn't competing for the role. So you fast forward to August of that year, and one of my peers was named President and Chief Operating Officer with the understanding that he would become CEO in January of 2019. In November of 2018, I got called into an office by our lead board director and our then CEO and told that our President and Chief Operating Officer had resigned. He had gone through some personal things and made the decision that it was in his and his family's best interest for him not to pursue the presidency and ultimately the CEO role, and I was asked if I would consider it. Now, my initial thought was I wanted to make sure he was okay, and so I, immediately met with him. There were a lot of tears and conversation back and forth, and wanted to make sure he was okay. But then I also needed to step back to make sure that the presidency was for me. And so I took some time off. I went to Arizona, nice place to take some time off, especially in November here. And so I went to Arizona. My daughter went with me, and one of my sisters met me there. And we had a great dialogue about the opportunity before me. And, my husband, his position was do what you love. It's up to you. Don't feel pressured. Don't take phone calls while you're gone. Just, do a pros and cons. You can do it, but you have to want to do this. So ultimately, I made the decision that I would take on the position of president and COO, but there was one caveat that I added, and that was I just want a seat at the table when the next CEO is selected. I didn't make an assumption that I would be the next CEO. I actually was still in a place of, I don't think I'm interested. We'll see what happens. And so in 2019, I focused on being a good president and COO and doing everything I could to help position the company for the future. We were going through a lot of transition. I feel it's very important that you be where your feet are. If you're CEO, be CEO. If you're president, be president. If you're the mail clerk, be the mail clerk, but don't spend a lot of time thinking about what's next when you're in a current role. And so I spent a lot of time really thinking about my role as president and COO and setting a good example and positioning the company for the future, especially given we were in a period of change and transition. Our organization had its first layoff, and it's back then it was a 110-year history. And so, rebuilding trust with associates, assuring them that we were going to be around and around to stay, continuing to be good community stewards, just really maintaining our relevance. And so it's very important to me that I focus on that, while at the same time help our board and our then CEO to determine what they were going to do about hiring a CEO, because our then CEO had extended his retirement date twice at that point in time. So we get to December 2020, and my husband and I, we always said we wanted to retire early, always. I did everything young. I had children young, graduated high school young, college young, everything young. And so it's like, I'm going to be one of those individuals who, when I can't, I'm retiring. So in December of 19 and January of 2020, he kept saying, okay, we need to make some decisions here. And ultimately, he decided that he was going to retire Q1 of 2020. But he said to me, and I told him, I said, I thought this was a big conspiracy against me. I think you should go after the CEO role. You know? And why? And he said, well, Barbara, you know, the company's going through a lot of transition. You would be bored if you retired now. You can do it, and you care, and the company needs a leader who really cares. So I thought, okay, I'll think about it. And we talked about it a lot. We prayed about it a lot. We talked to people at church. We talked to people, our friends, and then I also talked to what I call my personal board of advisors. And everyone said, you should go for it. So in February of 2020, I expressed to our then board lead that I was interested in the role. And you know, no commitments were made to me. I was pretty much told, okay, that's nice to know, and we're still going to do a search, and you will have a fair shot at it. And that was fair. I mean, think about it. I was approached 2 years prior and said I had no interest at all in competing for the role. They then selected someone, and that individual resigned after a couple of months. And so for me to be told, okay, happy to know, but we'll take it under consideration, and you will have to compete, that was fine with me. And I believe in fate. I believe that what God has for you, He has for you, and if it's meant to be, it's going to be. And so I pretty much said, okay, we'll keep going. Fast forward to March of 2020, which was just a month later, and COVID hits. My husband's retirement date was March 13th. I started working from home March 17th. I tease him now that I totally crashed his retirement, you know. But the reality is the blessing that came with transitioning from working in the office to working at home at the same time that he decided to retire is I was home and able to pay attention to some things that he was doing that were uncharacteristic. I noticed he was sleeping until 1 and 1:30. And it's like the first couple of days, it's like, okay, I hope this isn't what your retirement is going to be like. But then I noticed he was a bit lethargic. And the bottom line is he had COVID. He had a severe case of COVID. So he was admitted to the hospital March 27th, exactly 2 weeks after he retired. I was diagnosed, well, I woke up in the middle of the night the following day, could barely move. My doctor decided it would be best for me if I stay at home and just have a nurse come to the house and monitor things rather than go to the hospital. It's in the early days of COVID, and so there was a lot of fear and uncertainty. My husband was really bad. I mean, he experienced renal failure. He still has permanent damage to his lungs and heart. And I say all of that to say, you know, I had just expressed really weeks before that I was interested in becoming CEO. And the advice that I was given during that time where I was really sick and my husband was really sick was, don't tell anyone. If you tell someone, you know, it's like it's going to be viewed as a weakness, and it may ruin your opportunity to become CEO. And so I didn't tell anyone. We told fewer than 10 people. To this day, my mother still does not know, you know. And in hindsight, that was a really bad decision on my part and on our part, because you look at today and what we're going through as a country and the fact that 100,000 people are being diagnosed on a daily basis and people are still dying from my perspective, we should have been screaming from the rooftops, this is what's going on, it's real, it's dangerous, it's severe, do everything you can to follow the precautions. And that was a decision that I regret. It was a leadership gap. It was a miss in that I allowed others to make me feel that I would be viewed as weak for acknowledging that I contracted a virus through no fault of my own, really. We still don't know how we contracted it. We speculate, maybe at my husband's retirement party, maybe when a guy who my husband worked with had a flat tire a few days before and he gave him a ride, he was coughing in the car. I mean, we thought about everything. I was at a restaurant sitting next to a person who was coughing, and so you think about all of that and you don't know. But what I do know is that it's real and it kills people and it damages them long term, and that anyone who has an opportunity to share and help others avoid going through a situation like that should absolutely do so. And so I'm embarrassed about that period of time where I had an opportunity to lead and I didn't. And so here it is over a year later, and I make sure I tell as many people as possible that this is real and we should not take it lightly. But the again, blessing with the whole situation is being in a house by myself for the 2 weeks he was in a hospital, and I tease my children, having my children have to throw food at the door and blow me a kiss and run, not being able to touch them, not being able to see my husband when he's in the hospital, not being able to just do the things that you do as a mother, a wife, really prepared me for I think, the worst that could happen in my life when you talk about losing loved ones and things of that nature. But it was also a time of reflection, a time to learn to appreciate those around you, a time to learn to really find your voice, a time to just listen and meditate and think and reflect on what you're going to do if only you get better, if only things get better, how you're going to be a force for change, for positive change, how you're going to make sure you don't miss opportunities to tell people how much you care about them, and then also how you're going to make sure that you're not going to spend time on things that aren't important to you. Life and time is precious. Time is something we don't get back. Once it's gone, it's gone. And so for me, it's like, okay, I am not going to spend any more time on things or people that, don't fill my cup, that don't feed my spirit, that don't result in positive change and impact and helping things to become better. So, you fast forward to November 2020, and I'm told that I've been selected as the next CEO. And I will say I did a little happy dance. I did a little happy dance because, again, this wasn't something that I pursued. I made one comment to our lead director that, hey, I'm interested in having my name put in the running, but I didn't change who I am or what I was doing. I just continued to do my job. I didn't campaign. I didn't do anything special. I just continued to do my job. January 2020, it's announced, it's official. I'm the first woman and person of color to become CEO and president of this 112-year-old company. Now, some people say, oh, whoa, whoa, and I say, it's about time, you know? Yeah. But I'm incredibly honored and proud of Ohio National and our board for making such a decision. I'm really proud of the team that I work with. You know, for me, it's all about making sure that you do something that really adds value to this great country and this great community. And I believe Ohio National does that. And so I'm really honored to have an opportunity to follow in the footsteps of many great leaders that have helped the company give back so much to individuals. In March 2021, we announced that we're being acquired by another company, and you know, so many people called me concerned about me. What about your role? What about your this? What about you? Do you feel you were set up? What's going on, you know? And I will say to you that this is a good transaction for Ohio National. It's a good transaction for our associates. The transaction was negotiated in a way where we stay in Cincinnati, we have the same leadership team, we continue to be able to fulfill our community commitments. We have an opportunity to really grow in a manner that, from a capital perspective, we would never be able to do so on our own. In this environment where interest rates are low and the stock market is so volatile, I mean, it just presents such a great opportunity. And so for those that question, okay, what is this going to do to you, Barbara? I don't care about me, Barbara. I care about what I believe Ohio National is capable of doing to really help people in our community and beyond, and I really feel this is a great thing. I believe in fate. I believe that I'm in the position that I should be in at the time that I should be in the position. I mean, right place, right time, right company, right role for me as an individual. I believe in our mission strongly. And, you know, I joined the financial services industry 40 years ago for one reason and one reason alone. I spent time in the trust department of a bank, and I saw what financial literacy, financial independence, financial security, legacy giving, I saw what all of that could do to strengthen communities and families and help people not only survive but really thrive. And so I decided 40 years ago that this was the industry for me. And then you fast forward to today to be CEO of an insurance and accumulation or investment firm where we're doing a lot to help individuals achieve financial security and independence. And, you know, during a time where morbidity and mortality is top of mind and individuals are using GoFundMe funds to pay for medical expenses and funeral expenses and things of that nature, we have a lot of work to do. And what we do in our industry is a very noble cause, and we miss the boat if we don't reach as many people as we possibly can reach and help them understand that they don't, with some planning and education and with an opportunity to lift people up, they don't have to go there. They don't have to face humiliation when it comes to burying their family members or feeding their families, or, you know, just owning a home. You know, everyone, I believe, ultimately wants the same thing for their families. and for their communities. It's just, we don't all start off in the same place. And so it's incumbent on those who happen to embark upon an opportunity where you learn that there is something beyond living paycheck to paycheck, and there's something beyond buying a fancy car or what have you. I mean, I didn't know prior to working at the bank, I didn't know what a stock was. I had never heard of it. I didn't know what a trust account was. I called my mother on that day and said, do we have stocks? And she's like, what? But I mean, I didn't know. And the reality is, I didn't know that we lived in the projects. I thought we were rich. And that's because we had nice furniture and new cars every year. But the reality is, we lived in the projects. We were poor, but no one had taught my parents the value of investing, the value of saving, the value of not investing in a depreciating asset. I mean, they didn't know, and so I'm in a profession that enables me to do something that I love, and that's lift others up, that's educate others, that's help people to thrive, and really I really work for a company that cares about the community. I'm able to fulfill all of my passions through my job, and so I'm in a good place, and I am fortunate to have the opportunity to talk to groups like this just about what we're doing and where we're going. And, they asked if I had a PowerPoint, and I tried to put a PowerPoint together, but for me, it's like, no, this is just about what my life's been like the last couple of years, and the lessons that I've learned, and, how things are evolving from here. And so I would just say it's so critically important that at the end of the day, and I hope I'm not running out of overtime, I believe it's important that true leaders step up. Even when there's fear and uncertainty and adversity, you step up and you speak out. And then there's also no shame in saying no. If the opportunity isn't the right opportunity for you, it's okay to say no. There's no shame in that. A matter of fact, I think it takes courage. I would also say lieutenants are very important. I can remember people saying, oh, well, they're going to think you were the backup choice. If you're, who cares? I was happy to be a lieutenant. We all have to surround ourselves with strong players, and it's all about the team. It's not about one individual. So it's okay to be a lieutenant. And then I would say, lead with integrity and choose your course and be selfless. And with that, thank you for your time. Okay, so I was told that I could take questions if you all are interested. Okay.
You mentioned the happy dance. Are you going to show us?
My happy dance is something like, it's like raising a roof.
Hi, I actually interned at Ohio National back in the summer of 2018. And so obviously that was right before all of the layoffs occurred, and I had several people that I worked with that had to go through that. You talked about building back relationships and trust after that. Can you describe some of the things that have occurred since then? Absolutely.
So you're right. The layoffs in September of 2018 were very difficult for our company, and you have to rebuild trust. You have to alleviate fear. Several things that I've done. I, on an ongoing basis, host town hall meetings where individuals, I keep it to a group of 25, but we have candid conversations about the future of the organization, about decisions that I'm making, why am I making those decisions. People ask very directly, do you plan any layoffs, and so I think it's candid conversations, courageous conversations, accessibility. I have this email that's called On Your Mind that any associate can confidentially or by identifying themselves send questions directly to me, and I get tough questions. I also do culture surveys on a regular basis. We just received the last response back, and the numbers continue to go up, and so it's a campaign, it's a journey, and it's doing what you say you're going to do. And that's what's most important to me. You can say what you want to say, but if you don't back it up with actions, people will not trust you. And so, as I've articulated to our staff, I've not been dishonest. I've always followed through. If I had to change courses, I've explained why I changed courses, and that's what people want to know. They just want to know the truth, basically. So that's what I've been doing.
Hi. I'm curious, what's the overall representation of women in the workforce at Ohio National? And then with you at the helm, are you doing specific things to uplift and bring, lift as you climb and
Absolutely.
bring women along?
Okay, so the overall representation of women versus men at the organization is about 50-50. Having said that, I'm not pleased with that because if you break it out by level, officer level, senior officers, the number gets smaller and smaller and smaller. And so I've done several things. We have what we call the Ohio National Women's Network, which I launched, I want to say, 4 years ago. And it's an affinity group, but it also provides for sponsoring women during their career journey, mentoring, a lot of developmental opportunities. We also have a women's and leadership program that I started a few years ago, and again, it's for mid to senior level women, helping them get to the C-suite, if you will. And then we have a variety of things, but we also have a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategy that I initiated this past January, shortly after becoming CEO. We embarked upon a strategy, I want to say, 10 years ago. And in my opinion, we were not as intentional as we should have been about just really having metrics and, measuring outcomes associated with the work that we were doing in that space. And so I recently hired BRBS, Janet Reed and team, and we're going through interviews, and we've built the framework already, but it's about accountability and opportunity and being intentional, showing up where the opportunities are, making sure that we are proactive in our hiring practices. For instance, if we have a role and we find that we're only getting men or white men or what have you, we're trying to make sure that we have a diverse pool of candidates, and we're also looking to interview by panel as opposed to just having one individual do the interview, because we all have biases, we all do. And so when you interview in a panel or by committee, one person may see a talent or attribute that someone else doesn't see or doesn't view as an attribute. We've also talked about things in relationship to those biases that cause us not to call someone back, like, or interview them to begin with, like if the person's name is Obama, you know, are they automatically going to be eliminated as a potential candidate because of their name? And so a lot of education, but more importantly, accountability is very important. Yeah. I'm getting a hook. Okay.
Thank you very much, Barbara, for that very inspiring message of transition and Ohio National and your personal life. Thank you so much for sharing with us today. And Rotary International has been focused on efforts to eradicate polio since the 1980s. And as in honor of your speech today, we will give a donation for the eradication of polio to Rotary International on your behalf.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also, we presented Barbara with the Club 17 pin. So, thank you very much. Our next meeting will be Sheriff's Recognition next week. After our meeting today, we have 2 other meetings. The Board of Directors will be meeting in the Rookwood Room on the 4th floor, and the Rotaract Committee will be meeting in the Julep Room on the 3rd floor. So let's go out and make it a great week and follow the lead of Tony Archery with bringing about 3 or 4 new members and guests today. Thank you. Have a great week. Meeting adjourned.